All right. So, before starting off, just laying out some ground rules before starting off the session. I expect a lot of interaction from all of you guys, so that we have the best of the session that we can. So all your responses, be it answers to the questions, feedbacks, or any questions related to the topic we are talking about, data science in general, please post it in the chat box. My eyes will always be on the chat box. So I highly encourage all of you guys to just open up the chat section and keep your fingers ready. Just type in whatever you feel like, or whatever maybe I'm asking about, anything, right? So I expect it to be super interactive, and that's when the session goes the best. So yeah, I hope you're onboarded with me on the same. So let's see that if you guys are equally excited as I am for this session. So are you guys excited or interested to know more on this session? Are you guys excited to understand more on this project, new thing? Yes.
Yep, yep.
Great, lovely response. Cool. For everyone who has attended sessions with me earlier, you know me already. For new people who are attending for the first time, I'll just give a short introduction to myself. Hi, my name is Meghna, and right now I'm working with Uber as a data analytics specialist. And prior to this, I have worked with Mu Sigma for almost 3 years. So I'm in this field of data science for quite some time, and I mentor a lot of students across the globe. So I would love to help you in your data science journey, and let me know if you want to know more about me, if you want to ask or have any questions around the same, we'll be happy to answer. We can have a Q&A session at the end of the session. We can have 10 minutes for Q&A. I'll highly encourage you guys to keep your questions ready for the same. And yeah, that was like a short intro to myself. I think, before starting the session, I just want to know from you guys. So, to all the people right now who are attending the session, let me know in the chat box. Are you guys, a beginner into data science? Like, are you guys a student, or are you guys working professional? Or what are you guys up to right now? So this will help me set the pace of the session likewise. Okay. Beginner. Great. Cool. I think that was good to know from all of you guys. The topic that we will be talking about today is a very interesting one. We'll exactly solve the problem how any corporate would work around the same. Okay, how let's say you are working for a consultancy firm. You're working as an employee for a consultancy firm, and how does a consultancy firm work? Basically, you have stakeholders and you have clients, which are different companies, and these companies basically come up with a problem to you, and you have to provide a solution. You have to devise the solution. You have to turn around the problem for their benefit, and they pay you likewise, right? So you, being an employee of this company, you have to solve the project end to end. So that's the whole goal of the our project, and we are exactly going to do that together, right? We are going to solve the problem together. So don't start with the perspective that this is a problem that I'm learning and I'm learning how to solve. But definitely you are learning how to solve, but you are simultaneously solving as well. So we are together solving this project. Okay, so that's what I want to say. I want to set the intentions with. Cool. So, one thing about data science that I really want to incur before starting off the session, and I promise this is the last thing, is that healthcare, or let's say today's project is on healthcare, but any industry project that you work on requires you to have equal knowledge on the business end on the industry domain as it does to the technical side of it. So maybe you know the best of the algorithms, you know machine learning, you know Python, SQL, and to the core, you know them to the core. But if you lack industrial knowledge, if you lack business knowledge, you are not going to get it through, right? So both your analytical skills and your business acumen, and your strategic tool usage is equally important, right? So yeah, that's what my intention was to set. So yeah, before starting, we have a question: is Uber working on healthcare use case? No, Uber doesn't work on healthcare usage because Uber is into mobility and delivery. So yeah, I don't think it works on healthcare usage. So if that answers your question, I'll just share my screen.
Yeah, I have one doubt.
Sure.
Yeah, actually, in the curriculum, we did not finish the SQL. So if there will be any problem, like while we listening to this project or while we solving this project, actually.
You can you just come again?
Yeah, actually, SQL, we only finished the Python and machine learning. Now we
Okay.
are cloud deployment. Actually, we did not, sorry, they did not teach SQL. So
Okay.
if we'll face any problems while we're doing this project because
Uh,
of SQL or like that.
no, no, no. You won't face any problem. Mostly we won't be using SQL. We'll be using Python the most. So don't worry about it. And even in case we could switch to SQL for any of the project related tasks, I'll try to explain those concepts as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Cool. So let me introduce you guys to the problem. Like I said, you guys are working with a consultancy firm and you have a client. Like you have multiple clients, but one of the clients, let's say, is a pharmaceutical company like J&J, Johnson and Johnson. We all know about Johnson and Johnson, right? We have all used products from Johnson and Johnson, right? So in India, most of us, we might have used J&J as products as baby care products, right? But J&J also has a lot of other product sections. It is a completely 100% pharmaceutical company. So it does have drugs which are coming up. It does have a lot of medical instruments that it produces. There is baby care range, there is baby food range, there is a consumer food range. All of it is done by J&J, right? So how many of you guys are aware of how J&J functions? How many of you guys know about J&J? Can I see some response? Deepika says no idea. Suparna says me, no idea. Yes. Uh, we have all used J&J's products, right? As a child, as a baby. We have used Johnson and Johnson products, right? You just know the name, just know the company. Exactly. So, yes, I got a lot of response, which is great. Yeah, so just to give a heads up on the company, J&J is a pharmaceutical company, which is one of the Fortune 50 companies in the world. It's a US-based pharmaceutical company who is your client right now and has come up to you to solve a problem of them. Right. And J&J has different sections of, like I said, J&J has different sections of production. Right. It does, mostly we have used baby products, like I said. We have used a lot of baby products, right? Even if you go in the market, the most readily available products are of J&J, right? There are a lot of subsidiaries, but the parent company is J&J, right? We don't call it Johnson and Johnson. Let's call it J&J. Okay. Now, uh, you know, uh, and this is just an example. There can be n number of pharmaceutical, companies, but we are just taking an example of J&J. Nothing related to the actual statements. They solve a real, I mean, they solve really interesting problems, I'm sure. But there are a lot of pharmaceutical companies which work around in the same principle. And by solving this project, you basically will get an idea of how healthcare industry functions and how it solves number of problems across data science. The other famous in pharmaceutical companies are like what? Pfizer, We've all heard about Pfizer when COVID vaccines were coming up, right? So these were some of the, this is some of the ideas of the pharmaceutical company that we are talking about. Okay. Is it a real time problem? It is a real time problem. And though the data is not something that we can use, we are going to use open source data that J&J readily gives us through open source platforms. But definitely, since it's a third party, since it's a originated company, we can't use the internal data, right? So yeah, that is not allowed. We don't work for J&J, right? So we can't use that data. But yeah, we are trying to solve a real time problem, which is 100% a pharmaceutical problem statement that really goes around in the back end. Cool. So a pharmaceutical company will have number of teams, right? Then one of the most important teams is R&D teams, right? How many of you can tell me what's the full form of R&D?
Research and development.
Great. What about others?
Same.
Same.
Same, ma'am. Research and development.
Great. Research and development, right? So for any company, R&D teams basically works around with development of the products or research around the same, etc. With pharmaceutical companies, it's a really important team wherein they work around with production, maybe let's say production of drugs, right? So the problem statement is that the manager of the R&D team has come up to us and is stating us that they are basically trying to do a clinical trial. And this clinical trial is to basically test the new drug of theirs where they want to target and treat pre-diabetic patients. So patients who are pre-diabetic means they are either on borderline or they have symptoms which are related to diabetes, but they don't they still have not entered the diabetes phase. So they want to treat such patients with the new drug that they have researched for. Now there's a process to that, right? So we'll discuss about the process, but let's understand the problem statement that they have come up with, and then as a team we are going to discuss that what's the process, how to process it, and all of it, right? So they want to run a clinical trial to test the drug on the patients and see if the drug is an effective drug or not. Right. Now, in order to do that, they want to, before the trial ends or before the trial continues, they want to understand out of these patients that they have, how many patients are are the ones who have high probability of developing a type 1 diabetes within the next 6 months. Okay, so they want to identify patients who have the probability of probability of developing a type 1 diabetes within the next 6 months, so that they can eliminate them from the process. Okay, so what's our objective? So our objective is basically to identify out of these pre-diabetic patients who are the sure shot patients who are definitely going to develop type 1 diabetes in the upcoming 6 months. And maybe for that we can build a predictive model, and we basically have to make the process more efficient and more cost effective by identifying 100% highly probable patients out of them. So the current state of the problem is basically that the clinical trials that are happening is highly resource intensive and expensive. Okay, so let's understand about the clinical trials a bit more. Okay, so what happens in the background is that let's say the pharmaceutical company has developed a new drug. Okay, but they cannot just like any other on any other company, let's say let's say for mobile company, they create a new mobile phone. They do stress testing. They basically check if all the software and hardware parts are working absolutely fine under all conditions, and they launch their phone, right? That's how a mobile industry will work. But that is not how a pharmaceutical industry works, right? So even if they develop a drug, even if they research a lot, they develop a drug, let's say they tested it on potential organisms as well, but still they can't go ahead and launch the drug. They cannot do that. Why? Because still it is not proved that the drug is effective. And every country has a let's say a government body which basically regulates all these drugs. So once you pass all the cases, once you pass all the tests, only then the government body basically allows you to launch the drug. So for USA, since the pharmaceutical industry J&J that we are talking about functions mainly in US, the government body is called FSSAI. Okay, FSSI is basically the government body who basically regulates all these drugs and sees that if it is safe to launch it in the market or not, right? So for one of these tests is what we call as a clinical trial. Okay, and clinical trial is basically a controlled environment test that is done on a selected number of patients and seen that whether the drug is actually effective or not. Okay, now you guys tell me that if I develop a drug and I test the drug, that same drug on all, let's say I have 100 patients with me and I want to see if the drug is efficient for that particular condition. We are solving it for diabetes. Let's say I'm trying to see if the drug is working with 100% efficiency on all the patients or not. So do you think if I take the drug and give it to all the 100 patients that I have is a correct approach to test the drug?
No, actually, we need to go ahead with the age or grouping of particular patient. So it would be helpful. I mean, the variable is going to hit our target in that case, maybe.
Okay, okay, great. What about others? No, no, no. Right. Okay. Okay. So all of you disagree to that, right? Which means we all agree to the point that if I test the drug on all 100 people, definitely I'm not going to understand whether the drug is effective or not, right? So what instead is done is that if I have 100 patients, I divide them into two groups, the test and control, like how every experimentation is done in test and control. But how do we test the control people? I mean, for the test group of people, I can give the drug that I just developed, right? I can give them the drug and then see that how are the patients performing. But for the control, if I give them no drug, if I don't give them any drug, there will be a mental barrier, right? There will be a mental barrier for the patients who have not got a drug, saying that, yeah, I did not receive a drug, so of course my health condition won't increase, right? So that doesn't work in the pharmaceutical industry. So what instead happens is that we give the actual drug to the test group of the patients and we give a placebo to the control group of patients. Okay, so how many of you know about placebo or are familiar with the term placebo? No, no, yes, no idea, not familiar, yes. Okay, some of you know, some of you don't know, right? So placebo is nothing but let's say replacement for the actual drug. So instead of giving the actual drug, we give a dummy drug or a dummy tablet. Let's say the drug is in the form of a OTC tablet. OTC means over the counter drug. Over the counter drug means the pills or the tablets that we usually consume at home. Something, a tablet or a drug which can be consumed without the help of a medical supervisor. Okay, if there is no medical supervisor around me, I can still take the drug, like how we all do when we are at home and we are slightly feeling sick or something, we'll usually take a drug, right, at home. So that's what a OTC or over the counter drug is called, something that can be taken orally. Okay, something that can be taken orally and I don't have to have a doctor around me or a healthcare provider around me to take that drug. Okay, cool. So that's like okay, let's say we have such kind of drug, right? So the test group of people are given the drug, actual drug, and the control group of people is given a placebo, which is a dummy drug. So the tablet will exactly look similar, but it won't actually have anything. It's just like a either a starch form or either a chemical composition which provides no effect in your body, which actually nullifies every condition. I mean, basically has null effect on the body, right? So that's a placebo. Cool. So how many of you are clear with how a clinical trial is done? How many of you are clear with all the things that we discussed till here?
No, I understand, but I didn't understand why you cannot test on all the 100
Yeah,
patients.
I also have the same note, like why to give the placebo for someone,
Okay.
on based on what biases you are dividing the placebo and the drug which we are doing the clinical
Hmm.
trials, on what basis we are going to divide them into
Hmm.
placebo group and which we are going to do trials.
Yeah. Sure. So on what basis we'll divide, we'll come to that point in a while. But why we do that, let's understand that. Let's understand what the clinical trial is actually doing, right? So if I have this drug that I've developed and I give them to all the 100 patients out there, firstly, it won't make any sense, right? Because all the 100 patients, I won't know that, basically with or without this drug, will the problem be solved, right? Let's say we have two people, okay, over here, A and B. I give the drug to A, and I give the same drug to B. Both of them is basically having the same drug, so they'll kind of show similar symptoms or may not show, or anything can happen. But how do I test the efficiency? How do I know that the drug actually produced an effect or not, right? Maybe the case is that the drug is actually not effective and the diabetes or the whatever the medical condition is got cured on its own, or the patient in general did not develop diabetes with the course of the time. That can be possible, right? So to test in all kind of conditions, we need to know that if a patient is receiving the drug, how is the body performing, and how is the body coming up with the event condition, which is diabetes in our case. Is the body getting the diabetes? Is it getting treated, or is the body deteriorating with time? Or is it like with or without drug the effect is same? If with or without drug the effect is same, then my drug is not solving my problem, right? And that's why we need to have a test group and a control group to see that without that particular test being done, is the problem already getting solved or not, right? That's why firstly we need to divide it into test and control. Second thing, why do we need to give a placebo? Why can't we just keep it like that? Now you tell me, okay, you tell me, you are a patient who is on the control group, okay, and you saw and you can see and you know that the other group of patients is already getting the drug to be cured from diabetes, and you are also pre-diabetic, right? So won't you have a psychological effect or a mental effect already, that that person is getting the drug and I am not getting? So for me to be cured, or for me or my body to have an effect is highly less. So every condition that we have is kind of related to our psychology, right? So we'll definitely have a chance where the body and the mind already thinks that I am not getting the drug, so how am I going to get cured? I am not going to get cured, right? That patient who is getting the drug is more likely to get drugs, so, I mean, more likely to get cured. So I'll already have that doubt in my mind. But these clinical trials are extremely critical, so there can be no area of doubt, or there can be no area of error that can happen, right? You are literally working with human bodies, right? It's not even anything close to casual. It's very serious thing that they're trying to solve, and that's why they live no area of doubt in that. And that is the reason, to solve these psychological effects, they give a placebo, which exactly looks like the similar drug, and the patient doesn't know. All the patients in the clinical trials, they don't know they are in treatment or they're in control. They just know that they are getting a drug, right? That simple as that. So are you guys clear with why placebo is given and why they're divided into test and control?
One question regarding this giving placebo without knowing them, and because he or she knowing is taking medicine.
Hmm.
So is there any conflict of interest?
I didn't get your question. Like you're saying that why did the person voluntarily take the medicine?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for clinical trials, consent is taken, and there are many patients who give the consent of entering the trial and getting the test done or getting the clinical trials done with them. So the trials is only done with consent, not on random patients. Clear?
So on, okay, we
Thank
will
you.
randomly fill the placebo groups or any parameters to select the placebo groups.
No, there is no parameter to divide them into test and control, because any sort of parameter in dividing them into test and control can create a moment of bias, which the pharmaceutical industry really doesn't want, right? It has to be a bias free controlled experiment, and that's why a random division or randomization of sample is done, wherein half of the patients are divided into test and half of the patients is divided into test and half of the patients are divided into control.
So okay, can we call it as like placebo groups as like control?
Yeah,
Like,
placebo is basically the control group. Yeah. Clear?
yeah, clear.
Okay. So, coming back to the problem statement, right now, the current state is that these clinical trials are hugely expensive. Okay, it costs literally a lot to the company. So they don't want to mess around with it as well. Right. And and the second thing is that you are literally working with real life patients, right? So you cannot play around with them as well. So it is both resource intensive and expensive as well, right? So, for the best case scenario, you want that, if you already know that this out of the 100 patients that I've selected, 10 of them will anyway get diabetes, right? 10 of them will anyway are getting diabetes sooner than the trial finishes. You might want to already remove them and take patients who are in a normal condition, and let's say that you want to treat their pre-diabetic conditions who don't have a higher probability to get. If a person has 99% probability of getting a diabetes, clinical trials basically will exclude all of these patients, so that they know that, yeah, this patient is anyway going to get a diabetes. To test a drug on them is firstly not safe, secondly clinically very expensive, and I don't want to do that. I want to test my drug on patients who are comparatively in a stable condition and comparatively have a equally likely chance of getting a diabetes or not getting a diabetes. Clear? Is everyone clear with the problem statement?
So is the drug meant to treat the pre-diabetic condition only, or treat the diabetes?
Treat the pre-diabetic conditions. Basically, if anyone is in borderline or just having some symptoms, just stop them from getting into the diabetes area,
Okay, cool.
right?
Yeah, okay, it's like predicting like in future you are going to get diabetes like that, or the object of this model is like that.
Yeah.
Or for curing also we are using this clinical trial.
Sorry.
Or for only for to identify whether they are going to have diabetes, or it is also used for curing also.
The curing part is done by the research team in developing the drug, right? Our part as a data science team is here to identify who are the patients who are likely to develop the
Diabetes.
condition. Yeah, so that we can remove them.
Okay.
Cool. So now everyone knows that what is the problem that we are solving and why we are solving that, right? So the future state that we want to land in is basically, basically have a group of patients in basic and allocate them into test and placebo groups, and we want that these are the patients who will have good amount of basically normal condition, and they are the ones with whom we can test the drugs efficiency or efficacy. Okay, now we basically are trying to minimize the likelihood of a failure rate of the clinical trial. We want this clinical trial to be a success, and clinical trials usually goes up for years, right? It is not a it is not a short-term trials usually it goes for years, and that's why it is even more expensive and extensive, right? So that is the reason why we want to solve this problem. So the current gap that we have right now is that we are lacking an approach to identify such patients who are at risk, right? Clear? Everyone is getting the point of what is the current state that we are in and where are we trying to reach, and what is the gap that we right now have between our current state and a future state?
Ma'am, in objective, what does second point mean?
This one. So it's basically saying to improve the efficiency and cost effectiveness of the clinical trial, like just the one that we discussed, that I'm trying to make the clinical trial more effective and more both in terms of testing the drug and in terms of cost as well, and by avoiding enrollment of the patients who are likely to develop the diabetes during the trial, right? If I know that the patient is already highly probable to develop the diabetes in the next 6 months, let's say, then I would not enroll that patient in the trial already, because he is anyway going to develop whether or not my drug is given to him or not, right? My drug is going to test on patients who has a 50% chance of getting diabetes or not getting diabetes. Now let's do a kind of brainstorming over this. Okay, we'll do a kind of brainstorming over this problem, but before that, let's understand a bit more about the healthcare industry. Okay, let's understand what happens in the whole clinical trial process. Though we gave an introduction of how the clinical trials are usually done and all of it, but still there is a lot more to that. There's a lot more that is happening in the background for the clinical trials. Cool. So, how many of you guys have worked with clinical or healthcare industry before this? Just want to get an idea of how many of you guys have know about the healthcare industry or have worked with healthcare industry before this. No idea. No. Great. Then that means that there is a lot new to learn for you guys, I'm sure, in this whole exercise, right? Cool. So, just to know more on the clinical trial process. Now, look at it from the company's perspective, right? We are here to solve from the company's perspective, right? Company has developed a drug after years of research and after doing tests on human body, or let's say animal body, and it has come up with the drug. Now it just needs to see how efficient it is on group of patients, so that before launching it to the market, it passes all the tests and it knows that, yeah, this is something that is actually going to solve the problem for me, right? That is what the drug is basically trying to, or the company is basically trying to do, right? So the first step to it is basically patient recruitment, right? So the objective of this step is to identify and enroll eligible patients in the clinical trial, right? So they have a lot of recruitment strategies, like they advertise, they do referrals from healthcare providers, or they just roll out forms who are who are the patients who want to get enrolled into such process. And then they do a lot of screening, like they'll screen the participants based on their criterias. There will be criterias, right? They cannot randomly take up any patient, right? There will be inclusion and exclusion criterias, like who are the patients they can include in the trials, who are the patients who cannot. So if, let's say, there's a patient who is pre-diabetic but already has a adverse disease or a chronic disease, like let's say the patient is having, let's say the patient is having high blood pressure, so that can affect the clinical trial, right? So they don't want to include patients like that. So if a person has high blood pressure already, we are not sure that it will that interfere with the drug's effectiveness or not, right? So for the testing purpose, they don't include such patients, right? And then once the inclusion and exclusion criteria is done and they have potential participants, on these participants, they explain the trial purpose, what's the procedure going to be, and what are the risks and benefits of them. And likely they'll take informed consent as well. Like I was mentioning, that they ensure that all the patients are completely informed about the trial and they voluntarily agree to participate in the trial. right? And yeah, so that's like the first step to it. They'll recruit the patients and they'll get the consent out of it that yeah, I really want to go about this particular test, right? Now comes the part of dividing them into test and control, right? So like I said, they don't want any areas of bias over here, right? So that's the reason why they randomly assign patients to either test group who's receiving that particular drug, or the placebo group or the control group who is not receiving the actual drug but is receiving a dummy or a non-active substance, just for the sake of comparison, right? So how do they do that? I mean, generally mostly they'll do it with randomization methods, or they'll use some kind of allocation that goes on with their particular healthcare providers, right? Now this part is done. Okay, the patients are recruited. Let's say we have identified who are the ones who are likely to get diabetes. We have excluded them as well from our exclusion criteria, etc. Now comes the part of treatment administration. And just to give you guys a broader perspective, we are trying to understand how the whole process happens so that we are better at solving the problem, right? So for us to solve the problem, you need to know that what is happening in the background so that you can approach this problem better, right? So like I said, there are three types of drug intakes that happen, right? One is your oral tablets or the OTC drugs that without the help of any healthcare provider or medical supervisor, you can take the drug at home or at your ease, right? But in most of the clinical trials, they don't allow patients to take such drugs. Why? Because there can be any miss at the end of the patient, right? If every patient is at their respective homes taking the drug, maybe that patient missed taking one drug, or maybe that patient took a wrong dosage of the drug, or maybe that patient messed up the diet with the drug, right? There can be n number of combinations that can happen, and that's why they don't want to introduce any kind of error or bias in the process. And that's why most of the cases they don't go on with oral oral drugs. Mostly they'll go on with intravenous drugs, or drugs which are injected in the body through an injection, or and for that a healthcare provider or a medical supervisor needs to be there. So all the patients are given a schedule. Everybody knows that on this day and at this time they have to visit the medical center where they will be given the drug by the healthcare provider. So they are the ones who are going to give the correct amount of dosage to this particular patient throughout the whole process, right? And they administer the whole treatment likewise. Whatever their study protocol is, they're going to administer all the patients likewise. So they follow that treatment plan that is outlined. They'll monitor the patients, that what are the unexpected reactions or any effect that is coming on the patients. So they're going to monitor if the dosage is correct and not. And even just to mention, and this is like an added information, a very big potential problem in these kind of trials is the dosage that is being given to the drugs. So can you, before me stating out the problem, just the way that I was explaining you guys the treatment administration, where the patient goes to the medical center and gets the drug, what do you think is one big problem that can come up for these pharmaceutical industry in this case? One,
Maybe
yeah, sorry.
maybe any complicacy in order to while taking particular which is not as normal, and maybe
Like an effect that develops throughout the
yeah,
process.
yeah.
Side effects. Okay. What else? What else comes on your mind that can mess up with the process of a clinical trial while they are taking the drug? Throughout the clinical trial process, what else can mess up?
Maybe, maybe they are subjected to other treatment where the other drug is also being consumed.
So let's say that is also that is also nullified in the inclusion and exclusion criteria.
So we have to check by taking this drug if they have any other than diabetes, if they have any some other diseases, it will affect or that or not. We have to check.
Okay, yeah, okay, let's say that is also checked. Okay, let's say that those patients have no other health condition.
If they miss their schedule, basically.
Yeah, that can be one. Okay. Any other medical emergency? Age, lifestyle, access to nearest medical
And we
system.
also have to check the habits of particular person.
Okay. Like a smoker or a drinker.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
to check them.
Okay. Okay. What about the dosage amount that is being given to the patient? Do you think that can mess up?
Yeah, that has to be very much accurate. Yeah.
Right. And at the end of the day, these dosages are being given by human bodies, right? They are being given by humans, and there can be manual mistakes, right? There can be any day, and there can be a manual mistake. It's very humanly to make any mistake like that, right? So a big potential problem comes up with the dosage amount that is being given to the patients. So there has to be a manual monitoring. I mean, usually there is a manual monitoring wherein these patients drug dosages amounts are noted always, and then there's a medical reviewer at every all of these medical centers where the patients go on with the drug dosages, where they basically receive the drug dosages. There is a medical reviewer who checks every day that the dosage is being throughout the trial, or let's say in the last 6 days or 7 days, was the dosage pattern normal, or was there any kind of lack? Yeah, a 0.5 to 1% change is normal, and that is humanly. But let's say a patient didn't show up, like one of you rightly mentioned, or let's say someday by mistake a healthcare provider provided x amount of extra drug, or x amount of less drug, or let's say the healthcare provider itself messed up with the drug or something like that. Any humanly error can be possible, right? So that can be a big mess up, right? Do you guys agree to that?
And also the exchange of doses. Like if the person has to be given placebo, for suppose, and he has given
Yeah,
the test drug, or this can also be mess up the entire clinical trials.
exactly. Yeah, that's the right point. Yeah. Right. So do you guys agree with these points? Do you guys are you guys understanding how all of these processes being administered, and how all of these processes are taken care under extremely controlled environment, right? So this is again a second part of the problem, where you have to create some kind of devise a solution where you understand the dosage patterns of these particular patients, and see that whether there was any mistake, or there was any error in receiving the dosage amount. Let's say that messed up with the clinical trials. So that's like the second part of the whole problem statement. But definitely the first part is right in enrolling the patients for the clinical trials before they even receive any drug, right? So once they are done with the whole drug administration process and they receive the drug, next part comes with the data collection, where we basically get the data of all the patients throughout the trial. So we know that we basically collect all baseline data before treatment. Baseline data means anything which is at level 0 before they received any treatment. What was their health conditions, but what was their health data over there, right? And then we see their regular data collection methods, right? Like did the patient take the dosage, and how is their how's their health, is it getting better, or is it not, or what are the different medical levels that are being administered, a note of them. Let's say what is their insulin level right now, right? So these are some of the things that are very specific to diabetes, like insulin. There's something called as EGFR, or there's something called as kidneys, basically checking how well is your kidney performing, because kidney has a good amount of correlation with diabetes. So these are the some things that is regularly noted. Along with that, it's seen that if this person is generating any extraordinary effect in their body, right? Which means we have to cut down the process right there and then, right? And then we also have to ensure the data quality and integrity, which I was mentioning, that all the dosage, everything, the data being collected is correct or not. Let's say the healthcare provider has given the correct amount of dosage, but the medical reviewer who is actually manually noting it down has made a mistake and noted a wrong amount, right? That can also be possible. So we have to ensure those kind of checks as well, right? So there's a question, How long does this test and placebo last? It completely depends on the industry, and it completely depends on the medical providers. We as a data science team cannot determine the duration of this test, but it's dependent on the researcher who is working on the drug. So they will know what will be the correct amount of dosage to be given, and for how long should it be given. Does that answer your question? Great. And then the whole analysis is done on the data. Now you'll be you'll be thinking that now that they are being given all the everything has been done, the data collection, everything, then now what do they do? How do they check the drug is effective or not? So then they analyze the collected data, and they basically check what's the safety and the efficacy of the treatment. And for that, they use multiple statistical methods to analyze the clinical trial data. They compare the outcomes between test and placebo, basically. Since everything is in a very controlled environment, it's a basically apple to apple comparison, because both test and placebo has received the drugs in the same environment, right? So they assess the safety, the differences, the effectiveness, all of it, and then they interpret the results through different studies that they have just done. So that is basically how it is, how the clinical process is done. And yeah, definitely there are a lot of metrics that we check for seeing the drug effectiveness, which is the most important part of testing any drug, right? So we firstly see the efficacy of the drug, right? So how many of you guys know what is efficacy? And do you think efficacy and efficiency is the same thing? It's a very important question in healthcare domain, right? So if you let's say interview for any healthcare company, and even for data science roles, they are going to see that do you have knowledge about healthcare? 100% yes, that the company, the pharmaceutical companies, even if they hire for data analyst, business analyst, or data scientist roles, they are going to check that do you have a knowledge about healthcare industry or not, right? So these terms, efficacy, efficiency, all of these are highly important, right? So that's the reason why I'm walking you guys through the whole process in detail, so that when you use this project in your resume, you are being able to explain it to the core, and you actually know what is happening in the background, right? So how many of you guys know the difference, or if there is a difference between efficacy and efficiency? Power to produce the accurate result is efficacy. Okay. Nakib says don't know. What about you guys? What about other people? Success rate. Okay. Okay, let's make it more simple. Okay, let's make it more simple. What do you think is efficiency? We have all come across the word efficiency. We use it in our regular day-to-day work. What is efficiency? Max productivity. Okay, efficacy is related to product and related to goal you want to achieve. Okay.
Caliber, like.
Okay, caliber. Okay. Quality check. Okay. So if I say that this drug is very effective, what do you incur out of that statement? What do you take out the meaning out of this statement?
I mean, it is curing the particular disease, effectively. That's it.
Okay. Okay. Efficiency means reaching certain goals with limited resources. Max output with system requirements, working. Okay. Okay. Great. Cool. So efficiency and efficacy, though they sound very similar, they are used in completely different context, right? They have different meanings, right? So just to clarify, efficacy is basically the ability to produce the desired result, or to get the desired result, which in our case is whatever the drug is trying to solve, to produce that result under ideal conditions, right? So it's basically the extent up to which a given particular drug or a treatment or a solution is being able to achieve whatever it has to achieve, whatever it is, its intended purpose is, in a very controlled and well-defined setting. Like our clinical trials, it's a very controlled and well-defined setting. In such a setting, up to what levels is my drug being able to cure diabetes is basically my efficacy, right? So in context of the same medication, efficacy is basically indicating how well the drug works in an ideal clinical trial setting where all the conditions are being carefully controlled, right? On the other hand, I'll repeat it again. No worries, I'll repeat it again, but just hear it out first completely, right? Efficiency, on the other hand, is basically referring to the ability to complete or accomplish a task or a result with least amount of resources or least amount of effort or least amount of time. So that's basically the measure of how well how well the particular job is done with limited resources. So in terms of business, efficiency is basically to measure the ability to produce a particular result or to achieve a particular outcome with minimal cost or minimal time or minimal resources, while still whatever we want to achieve, we are still achieving it, but with how much less resources are we being able to achieve that. So that is efficiency, and the other way around is the efficacy, right? So I'll just repeat it once more. Efficacy, in short, is basically how well something works under optimal conditions or under controlled conditions, focusing on just achieving the outcome. So it doesn't matter how much time you took, how much effort you took, or how much cost is taken, doesn't matter, as long as the conditions are controlled and optimal, like how it is in a clinical trial setup. Efficacy is the metric that we chase to see that how well did the job, how well did the drug actually cure the patient, right? So that is efficacy. Efficiency is, on the other hand, is not all the time used in terms of medications, because it is basically related to how well your goal is being accomplished with limited number of resources and limited number of limited amount of time or limited cost, right? So that is basically your efficiency. So how many of you guys understood the difference between efficacy and efficiency? Shruti says clear. Shantanu says understand. Yes, clear. Okay, thumbs up, understood. Yes, clear, clear. If you are not clear, you can let me know. It's completely fine for me to repeat once more. But this is one of the very important terms in healthcare industry. And if you're going to ever talk about this project in your future interviews or anywhere, you have to explain all of it.
So it's like efficacy means independent of sources like that. The main thing is like is to cure whatever maybe the target has to be worked independent of resources. Like coming efficiency means dependent on resources and the requirements, how able how it is able to perform. Am I correct?
Yeah. Basically, efficacy is how well your drug is performing under a particular controlled environment. But efficiency, like you said, is with how much limited resources is it being able to do its job.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So if I give you a more concrete example, let's think of a car. Okay, let's think of a car. So efficacy of a car's engine is basically maybe the efficacy of the car's engine will be measured in a laboratory, checking how well it will perform under specific conditions, kind of like stress testing, right? But efficiency of the car, basically means that how many miles can it travel, with every gallon of the petrol that is consumed, right? So basically indicating how well is it utilizing the resources that is being given to the car to achieve the goal of basically of transport, how well is it moving or how much distance it is covering with the each, maybe let's say each liter of fuel that is given to it. So that's the difference between efficacy and efficiency. Okay, right? Any more doubts till here?
Is it not efficacy is being tried on the human or living beings, and efficiency is being tried on the non-living, something like that?
No, it's not related to living or non-living thing. It's just related to the context. right? Efficacy is basically anything being measured under specific conditions, but efficiency is like how with limited resources is that particular solution that we devised is being able to do its job with how much limited resources.
Okay.
Is efficacy like if the drug solves the purpose, then it is efficacy, and efficiency is like the lesser the resource or the lesser the time it has taken, that is efficiency. Is
Yeah,
that the way?
exactly, yes. Clear? Right? Any more doubts till here? I'll just wait for a minute. Okay, no doubt. Clear. Okay. And obviously, the second metric that we see is safety, right? Safety is basically seeing what are the potential effects that were associated with the treatment. And we are basically ensuring safety of all the patients. And because that is basically the highest priority for any company, right? They don't want to mess up with that, right? So monitoring, reporting of the dosages, reporting of all, reporting of all the patient data, like did they develop any other effect, are they developing any other conditions, anything, any effects that are coming on them, and making informed decisions about them. That is basically ensuring safety. So safety is also a very important metric. Okay, so we covered two metrics: efficacy, efficiency, and mostly efficacy and safety, right? Okay, there's a question: if is efficacy checked in like in stress testing? Yeah, it is kind of stress testing under certain conditions, under controlled conditions, how well your solution is basically performing. So that is basically your efficacy. Cool. Cool. So the third thing is adverse events, right? Adverse events, it's something else, one more metric that we usually check. So adverse events are basically medical conditions or medical occurrences that occur in a particular, that may or may not occur to a patient during the course of the treatment, right? So these are basically conditions which can happen. Like, let's say I am taking a drug. Okay, I am in the clinical trial process. I'm taking a drug and I start developing a rash or an allergy in my body, right? So that is kind of an effect. Now, there are two things to it. One is adverse effect, the other is side effect. So we call it adverse event. So adverse event or side effect. So can you guys tell me what's the difference between adverse event and side effects? I'm sure you guys have heard about side effects. Every one of us has heard, right?
The mild conditions are developing that side effect, and if there is something serious happening, then that's adverse effect.
Okay. Okay. What about others?
I think like life-taking condition or serious condition is adverse effect, and side effect is going to be like it'll get healed within few days or something like that. That will be like side effect, and
Okay.
adverse effect like is like life-taking condition or something like that.
Okay.
Adverse
Side
can be
side
like
effect is like
it's reverse. Applying reverse to what it should be.
Okay. Okay. You're saying whatever the outcome should be, that starts doing something in reverse to the body.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What about others? Then Lakshmi says from COVID, knee pain is side effect, heart attack is adverse effect. Okay. Okay. That's a good example. What about others? Any more idea? Anything else that's coming up on your mind by just hearing the word adverse event and side effect?
The extreme event effects can be the adverse effects.
Okay. Okay.
because of some medicines, we may expose to some gas problems through like side effects.
Mm-hmm. An adverse event?
Yeah, advanced event, it's like rashes, like that only you mentioned, like.
Okay. Cool. Got all of your answers. So, yeah, please go on. Test success, patient died. Okay. Okay. Got it. Cool. So adverse event is basically any extreme medical occurrence in a patient, or in a clinical trial participant, which is basically a patient in our case, that has occurred, and it's basically an unfavorable or an unintended symptom or a disease or a condition that occurred, which basically worsens the condition or the course of the treatment, right? It's not related to the treatment, it was not related to the treatment, but it has maybe it was, or maybe it is not due to the treatment, but it has occurred in the patient, and that has basically created a deteriorating effect on the treatment, right? So adverse events basically have a wide range of occurrence, like symptoms like illness, some kind of injuries, or like something like heart attack, etc., that has happened to the patient, and it is completely deviated from the patient's normal state. The patient is not in normal state. So that is what is called an adverse event, right? It can be expected or unexpected, and it may or may not be related to the treatment, but maybe let's say maybe the the adverse event that happened, maybe it's not actually because of the drug, but it happened during the clinical trial, right? So that will create an deteriorating effect or a worsen effect on the clinical trial. Then a research is being research usually is done, that was it related to the drug or not, etc., and it basically kind of ruptures the flow of the clinical trial as well. So then healthcare providers take a call that how to proceed here. All of that is done in the backend. And then there is side effects, which is basically a subset of adverse events, but they're very specific, they're known, and usually the effect or the expected effect of the treatment, I mean, they're kind of expected effect of the treatment, right? Like sometimes if you take a strong medication like an antibiotic or something, you may generate digestive problems, right? That is a very expected effect of the drug, right? And it doesn't it doesn't worsen your condition, right? That is what is called a side effect. It is something which is known, specific, and expected effect of the drug that is been given, and it's directly related to the pharmacological properties of the treatment that is being given to you. So side effects are basically anticipated, and they are listed in the drugs documentation. So that is what is side effects. Things that are not listed, unexpected, and completely worsens the condition of the patient is what is called adverse event. And side effects are the ones which is known, that this was anyway going to, this can happen to the patient. It's possible that the patient develops an allergy throughout a drug intake. That is basically side effects. So side effects are often very predictable. They may include symptoms or reactions that are occurring due to an intended action of the drug on the body. Like drowsiness is a side effect of certain medications. Nausea is a side effect to maybe chemotherapies that are being taken. So these are some of the side effects, right? So just to conclude, adverse events are broader events, or they encompass a lot of unexpected medical occurrence during the treatment, whether it is related or not related to the treatment. Whereas side effects are basically very specific and expected adverse events, which are directly related to the pharmacological properties of the treatment. So yeah, now let me know, did you guys understand the difference between a side effect and adverse event?
I would like to clarify one thing.
Sure.
Can there be like if there is any small kind of symptom which is not being mentioned in the particular medicine, but still the person is having, and it's very 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 small side effect. Can that happen?
Yeah,
Is that also, will that
that
also come under side effect?
yeah, that generally gets included in side effects. Even it's possible that maybe 10 things are mentioned as side effect, but one thing is not mentioned which happened to a patient, right? So but it's not deviating the patient from the normal state, it's not worsening his condition, so then that can be termed as side effect. Clear? How many of you guys are clear with adverse event and side effects? Cool. I think a lot of you are clear with this idea, right? So let me know in the chat box, guys, that are you guys finding the whole new concept interesting? Because we are learning a lot about healthcare industry and how it functions. Are you guys finding it interesting?
Like I would like to know one more thing. Like in healthcare industry, like other than pharma, like what are the other things available in healthcare industry? Like I know that it is out of context, but still I'm interested to know about it.
So, your pharma is completely related to your healthcare industry, right? Healthcare industry is pharmaceutical company. Like it's completely, they are both in correlation with each other. Um, but there can be a range of things that the pharmaceutical company is doing. Like I was mentioning, they can be developing drugs. They can be developing medical instruments like, your X-ray machines, your ECG machines, your, what else, your the machines which are right now, checking your pulses, checking your diabetes in with just one touch, etc. These are all medical instruments. So there are parts to pharmaceutical industry, and it's a huge domain. People usually don't understand it from the outside, but once you start working in a healthcare domain, you understand that there is so much data science into it, that there are n number of problems, and any company which is pharmaceutical usually doesn't run out of their data science problems ever, right? And then there can be a range of consumer products also, right? Like you are consuming something like the baby foods or the baby products, that can be a consumer section. Or you're consuming something like, let's say, any digestive medicine, which usually people take from the over the counter medicine shops that are there. So these are all parts of pharmaceutical company. Yeah, protein powder, even insurance and claims. You pointed it out correctly, Nakib. Insurance and claims are also part of medical pharmaceutical industry, right? People take medical insurance, etc. And it's a very, very huge range of problems that they actually solve. That does that help you? It does. Okay, cool. Great. Right. So this I'm slightly deviating from the project, but just to give you guys an idea of why we are talking so much about healthcare while we are solving the business problem, is that, let's say in the same problem, let's say in the same problem, we are right now in our current state, wherein we basically are, let's go back to our current state. We are basically trying to identify patients who are prone to develop the particular type 1 diabetes. There are two type of diabetes: type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is an extremely worse condition, where the chances of patient survival is very low. Type 1 diabetes is comparatively a better condition, right? So we are trying to see patients who are likely to develop a type 1 diabetes during the trial, and that can basically save the clinical trials process, or the cost of the trial, right? So what do you think, what are some of the hypotheses that comes up on your mind that can help us solve this problem? Okay, hypothesis, for people who are new to this term of hypothesis, hypothesis is nothing but a statement, right? Let me say that not in context of healthcare. I'm just giving a different example so that you can think of something in healthcare industry. Let's say I am trying to target companies for my marketing campaign, okay, and I am saying that my hypothesis is that a particular customer who browsed with my products for the past 5 days continuously on a particular product are highly likely to buy this product. So I should definitely send them the marketing campaign. So that's like an hypothesis, a assumption, a statement of assumption that you make. So what do you think? What are your ideas of, we are brainstorming on the problem to understand how can we, solve this problem and identify patients who are prone to develop certain kind of diabetes. I mean, type 1 diabetes in the next X period of time.
High level of insulin are more prone to diabetes, so they should be removed.
Okay, high level of insulin. So basically, you're saying high level of, let's talk in terms of, business. So you're saying high level of certain health condition.
Yes.
Okay.
And pancreas is making a pancreas is not making insulin. That is the type 1 diabetes, and type 2 diabetes, that pancreas is making insulin, but the body may resist insulin to work in the body, man. That is
Okay.
the type 2 diabetes, man.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Okay, so what are your hypotheses? How do you think we can identify more such patients? Or how do you think we can, test the drug on patients more effectively in our case? Hereditary, okay, like genes. If someone has already in the family, they're likely to get diabetes, okay. What else can we do to, see which are the patients which are likely to develop this condition? Blood test, okay. Lifestyle, okay. Okay, lifestyle, age, good. Yeah, age, lifestyle, health conditions, blood transfusions. Okay, health conditions. Yeah, okay. How about checking whether the patient is taking any other drug or not? Simultaneously, is the patient taking any other drug or not? How about checking that? Drug uses history, medical history. Okay. What else? What else comes on your mind? We are forming hypothesis to check, right? So yeah. And while you're giving hypothesis, you can maybe say that people of age greater than 50 are highly likely to develop diabetes. BMI, that's a good one. BMI can be definitely checked. Parents, hereditary, yeah. Past medical history, right? Diet, yeah. Food habits. Is the person a non-smoker or a smoker? Does the person consume alcohol or not? HbA1c test. Okay. Okay. Sleep hours. Yeah, that's very important. Yep. Cholesterol levels. Okay. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else comes on your mind? Stress.
Yeah, for any test, we have to check first blood pressure also. If it is high BP or low BP.
High BP, low BP. Okay. Gender, physical activity. Okay. Question, please. I didn't get your point. If you can elaborate. Okay. What's the question? Okay. The question is basically what can be the condition or what can be the factors or hypothesis that will help me solve the problem, the current state or the current problem that we are facing. How do I identify people who needs to be excluded, or how do I improve the whole clinical trial effectiveness? Age greater than 35. Okay. Okay, that's an hypothesis. Yes. Cool. Combination of any other disease. So okay. So let me type it out. That where's our data collection? Okay, this is a data collection part. Let's say what are we fixating on? Lifestyle, age. Okay, I'll just change the color so that this is the brainstorming part that we have done. So lifestyle, age. What else? Stress. Okay, region.
Previous medical history.
Medical history. Okay. What else? What else? What else? Obesity, BMI, obesity, I think coincides with each other. Stress, lifestyle, age, region, BMI, medical history. What else? Sleep pattern. Okay. Okay. Sleep pattern. I think food, diet, someone
Food
mentioned.
habits, yeah.
Yeah. What else? Genetic. Okay. Genetic history. Blood sugar level.
And also the physical condition of the patient.
Physical condition of the patient. Okay. Allergies to medicine. Okay. Allergy tests. Yeah. Allergies. Let's say allergies. Okay. Okay. So I think we have good amount of data points to look at to see whether these patients have, basically these patients have likeliness to develop this disease, the type 1 diabetes or not, right? So yeah, work process, like someone is a working professional or a student, maybe someone who's working with maybe IT, or someone who's doing heavy round of work, professional work, can end up in high stress. Yeah, so work patterns can also be one of them, right? Yeah, correct. Great. Great. So one more thing that we will be talking about now, think of the problem end to end. You are just given this statement by the client, and you have to devise the solution to the problem, right? Now you have identified all the hypotheses or all the data points that you can check in the patients to see that whether the patient is likely to develop type 1 diabetes or not. But did you guys think about the fact that how do we collect this patient's data? From where will we be getting all of these data? It's very rare that the client comes and gives you all the data, right? That here you go, there's this entire medical history or entire lifestyle history or entire demographic information of the patient that you need, right? That it's very, very rare that we'll get all of these data from the direct client or a particular place, right? So how do you think, or let's just think around this thing, right? How do you think we can collect data about these patients?
Like in the screening stage only itself, I mean, we'll be keeping a record of it and we can use it later on, right?
Okay, in the screening stage, okay. But for screening, okay, let's say, okay, so you got a lot of tests done for the screenings, okay. What else? Survey, hospitals, doctor plus pharma tie-up sales, okay, survey. But many people don't fill up survey, right? Even us, when we get a survey, most of the time we usually don't fill up a lot of surveys, right? Then what else?
So I was thinking the data would be available in the data warehouse of the company, isn't it?
But they might also be collecting it from somewhere, right? They might also be getting it from somewhere. So that's where I want you guys to think of. What do you think?
Insurance company probably.
Insurance companies, okay.
Through medical camps, we can get it.
Medical claims, insurance companies, okay. But if the medical claims or the insurances of the patients are with us, the same company will get the data. But if they are not with us, we might not get the data, right? Because no other company will leak the data, right? Sales of type 1 diabetics tablets related, okay. But if the person is already taking type 1 diabetics tablet, we will not in any way enroll them, right? Hospitals, okay. Medical representatives, healthcare providers, yeah. Cool. Laboratories, great. Have you guys heard about the term called EHR? Have you guys heard about the term called EHR? I'll just write it over here. No. Okay. Let me write the full form for EHR. Yeah, Ankit, you got it right. It's called electronic health record. Are you guys familiar with electronic health record? Government introduced card. Okay. What comes to your mind when you hear the word electronic health record? What do you think it can be?
It
I
is
think, yeah.
digitally, saved somewhere else and we can access the data.
Okay. Yeah. What else? What else comes on your mind when we say electronic health records? All previous health records.
It could be a collaboration of all the health institutions to collect all these type 1 diabetes data.
Yeah.
Or it's an end-to-end information about the health and everything.
Definitely. Okay. Database of an individual health, basically report. Okay. Cool. I think, yeah. Okay. Electronic data collection, I think EDC. Okay, cool. So pharmaceutical industries collect patient data through various means. Okay, they have various means and they store all of this information in electronic health records, which is what we call EHRs. And they are the significant source of valuable information or whatever information we require, right? So the collection process can be in collaboration with healthcare providers, clinical trials which has happened in the past, or in some cases partnership with some kind of companies. So have you guys heard of the company called IQVIA? Has anyone heard of the company called IQVIA? IQVIA. Yes, you might have seen its job posting in LinkedIn. It's a very famous company. Yes, no. IQVIA is one of such companies which deals with pharmaceutical data, and it stores a lot of the big companies or even the Fortune 50 companies actually buy patient data from such companies. So they buy or rent out or use data from such kind of companies. So they usually will get the data from healthcare providers or clinical trials in the past, and the collaboration with such kind of technology companies which is collecting all of these data, right? So this question might come in your mind, that we are solving so much of this, and it's a very important question to solve, right? So how will you collect the data, right? And that's why I'm answering this question for you, and that's why we are brainstorming on the question for you, that how will you collect the data that we are talking about so much? How do you think the data is coming from? Where do you think the data is coming from, right? So again, just to repeat, you get electronic health records, which is basically from collection of healthcare providers, your clinical trial participants, your partnership with technology companies, and a lot of other means as well.
Here I have one doubt, like how they can have access of all the persons regarding the health records and everything. Like they have any separate features in their company, like which, because no other companies have maintaining the health record data like that. You mentioned IQVIA is only maintaining like that, right? Okay.
Not
What-
only IQVIA, there are many companies. IQVIA is one of the examples.
Acha, okay. What is the requirement to hold that data actually?
Patient data is extremely useful data to develop drugs, to develop many medical instruments, or any medical purpose, right? It's not a publicly available data for sure, because patient data is highly how to say, private data, right? It's PII data, which means personal information data, something which is not readily publicly available. Only people who have license can do that, firstly. Second thing, when you go to a hospital, when you go to a hospital, you register with the hospital, right? You have a patient ID which is developed under your name with that particular hospital, and then you show to the doctor measures your all of your data, right? What's your BP, what's your currently pulse level, what's your oxygen level, SpO2 level, all of that is being noted. Your age, your weight, your gender, all your demographic patient related data are noted. Somewhere it is going back and getting stored in the database which is there with that hospital. So that's their hospital's database, right? Some part of it is being collected by the companies collaborate with such kind of hospitals and get the data. So it's like a business, basically, where you collect data, and these companies, these pharmaceutical companies, when they try to develop a drug, or when they have, all of these parties have license to do that. Everything is legal, and what basically happens is they buy the data, or they look out for such data to develop drugs, or to develop more kind of medical instruments which can solve a bigger problem. Yeah.
These people, okay, these IQR like companies will take from the hospitals, and pharmaceutical companies will take from this like company like IQR like that.
Hospital is one example. There can be medical insurance companies also that they can collaborate with, right?
Okay, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Is it
They have to hold a license, separate license like that because of data and everything.
Not everyone can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Is it legal, like, sharing the particular, patient information by the hospital to the concerned, third party,
So
without having any consent to the patient?
yeah, so when such kind of data are shared or being used, it won't ever be there that this is your name, this is your age, this is your email address, this is where you reside, and this is your health condition. Data is not transferred likewise. Data is transferred that with a particular ID, right? You are referenced with an ID, right? So IDs are encrypted, or the whole data is encrypted. So no one knows what's your health condition, because it is not legal and it is not consensual that your data gets leaked, right? So that's why only the health conditions are noted for research purpose, for medical purpose, for demand purpose, or for drug development purpose. But the patient's personal information is not linked with that, right? Maybe you get an ID, let's say, of 111, right? So in your electronic health record, a row gets added with another encrypted ID noting your noting all your conditions, but no one will know that it's you. So it's kind of encrypted and hidden and private.
So our name, row, everything will be deleted, like that of age and whatever the other parameters only will be deleted in the
just for medical research purpose. Yes.
Okay, so okay, different age groups of medical conditions, everything will be added in the record. Okay.
Yes. And there's a big process to it. So I highly encourage you guys to go back and research more about it, that how is the data being collected, how is it being encrypted, how is it being transferred with and being used for medical purpose, right? So it's a big domain. But are you guys now aware of how your data is getting collected?
Yeah, actually here also same ETL process only will be used, or any other extra transform load only, right?
Yeah, mostly ETLs are used, yes.
Okay.
And the same happens with every industry, right? Right now, you're going to Flipkart, you're placing a product, your data is being used, right? Your data is being used, right? And even if you have seen, you are maybe, you're maybe searching about a particular product in Google, and you see sometimes Flipkart or Amazon giving you the, marketing campaign or a notification about similar range of products. How do you think that is happening?
Yeah, even in Instagram also, whatever we are searching, we are also be able to view the same post regarding that one.
Exactly. So your data gets transferred. Every data gets stored. It is kind of very interesting actually, because you going and buying something today will, generate you getting similar marketing campaigns in the future. Right? That's how every retail company works, right? With your sales history, whatever you're buying with them, they are going to give you similar kind of recommendations in the future. So let's say today, let's say a home improvement industry, right, where your interiors, your home improvements stuffs are stored or let's say sold, right? Like IKEA is a home improvement retailer, right? Now you go and you buy a particular kitchen sink. Let's say you buy your kitchen sink. Now a person who has bought a kitchen sink is highly likely to buy other kitchen items as well. Maybe he's going to buy the drainage, sink drainage pipes, or he's going to buy more kind of utensils, or maybe he's setting up his kitchen for the first time, maybe he's renovating his kitchen for the first time, right? So they will likely be sending you notifications likewise, that this is the product you to buy. So they basically cluster a range of products across the product that you bought, and will be giving you notifications around the same. So that's how your data gets transferred and used for multiple purpose across multiple domains, right? So isn't it interesting? Because I find it very interesting all the time to think more about it, to brainstorm more about it. So don't you guys feel this part of the whole process is very interesting?
It is interesting as well as it is disturbing as well, because sometimes we used to get a lot of unnecessary calls and other stuff
Yeah.
from unnecessary stakeholders.
Yeah, that's true. There's always a pro and a con to it. What about others, guys? Are you guys finding the topic interesting?
Yes. Yeah, very interesting. We have learned so many new things which we are not aware of the industry.
Yeah, so whenever I used to talk about healthcare industries in a lot of career building sessions, I always tried to mention this point, that when you are working with any particular industry or any particular business, it's very important to know the back end of it. And healthcare is one such industry where there is huge back end to it. Usually what happens is, I'll give you a very real scenario. If you are working with retail industry, I'll be relatively very familiar to retail. Why? Because I am a consumer, or I am also a person who buys products, right? So I'll be very used to that thing. I'll know, what kind of things go back in the retailer. Yeah, here and there terms, something which I can learn, but retail industry is kind of easy to me. But a healthcare industry or a oil and gas industry is something that I don't have a lot of idea about, unless and until someone actually works in that industry, right? Are you an healthcare provider or an Uber staff or what? No, I'm not any healthcare provider. I'm just working with Uber right now. But I have worked with healthcare healthcare industry, not an industry, but I've worked with healthcare stakeholders in the past. And that's where I gained my knowledge while solving their projects. So just like you guys, 3 years back, I didn't know anything about this. But once I got the project and I understood, okay, this is how it happens in the back end, this is what is going around in the back end, and that helped me solve a number of problems and actually learn more about this topic, to answer your question. Cool. Like I was saying, the data collection part. So there is clinical trials, there is collaboration with healthcare providers, and there is RWEs. Okay, so what is RWE? RWE is called real world evidence studies. RWE is a very important term in pharmaceutical industry. So we learned about a lot of new terms. We learned about efficacy, efficiency. We learned about adverse event, side effects. We learned about EHRs, electronic health records, right? We learned about placebo, right? So real world evidence is one more addition to it, right? So real world evidence is kind of related to your electronic health records. It's basically utilizing existing electronic health records. So pharmaceutical companies use and leverage a lot of existing electronic health records from healthcare providers to conduct a real world evidence study. Okay, and these studies are basically to understand long-term effectiveness and safety of treatments in real-world patients, right? So just to reiterate on the same thing, to address all the privacy concerns, the patient data is very much de-identified and encrypted. Basically, it's made anonymous before being used in research, and that's what I was just mentioning, that all of these data are being stored in different electronic health records, and the process of utilizing these or leveraging these kind of records or data and doing more research related studies is what is called real world evidence studies. So are you guys clear with RWE's real world evidence? I'm waiting for some kind of response. Yes, no, anything? Yes, clear, great. And there are a lot of patient support programs and patient registries as well, where data gets collected. So yeah, that's another part of it, but yeah. So that's about the part of data collection. And once we are done with the data collection and we know the metrics which we are going to do, we are basically, we have all discussed about the hypothesis and the things that we can test on. Now with the data, or whatever data we will be working on within in the next class, we will be analyzing the data, exploring around the data, understanding how the data looks like. And most of the patient related data are usually not complete. There can be a lot of missing information, right? So let's say we have a column age, which is very genuine and very normal to have an age column. But let's say out of let's say 30% of my rows in that particular age column is missing. So how do you think you can handle that data? What will you do with the missing values? What can you do? Because we cannot predict with half-hearted or half-filled information, right? We need to have full information. So
we can reach out to the data team to see why is it missing.
We
let's
need to
say,
apply missing value treatment.
okay, but let's say to answer the data team part of it, let's say it's a huge lengthy process right now to reach out to the data team, wait for their response, and then see what else can be done. Now you are a data science professional, so how will you tackle this problem?
It's kind of will be applying the missing value treatment strategy.
Missing value treatment, okay, ignore
Can
the
you repeat the
column.
question again? I missed out it.
Okay, the question is that let's say you have a column of age in the same problem that we are solving to predict people who will be getting type 1 diabetes, and you see in the age column there is 30% values which are missing. What as a data science professional in the team, how are you going to handle the how are you going to handle this condition? Okay, there are responses in the chat as well. Ignore the column, measure of central tendency, impute the missing values. Okay, impute the missing values. How will you impute the missing values?
By
Like
using the
what will
mean, we can use the variable, fill the variables.
mean you will be using
Yeah,
mean.
mean.
Okay. Okay, there's one more response, replace with 0. And let's say in case of age, it is one of the health conditions. Let's say there it's the column of high BP. So it's a binary column basically where there are two kinds of value, 1 and 0. 1 means the patient has high blood pressure, and 0 means the patient doesn't have high blood pressure. And there we see 30% missing values. How will you handle in that case? But is it related to health, how imputation of mean will work? Yeah, like before I answer, I want to know your views. Like how will you handle missing values in such cases where it's a binary column of zeros and ones, how are you going to handle such missing information with data science knowledge that you have?
If it is a predominant data, we can remove that particular column, particular row. So if it is not that much important data, then we can add some placeholder, add some values for it, like 0 or 1 based upon the mean or some other analysis we can do to replace the placeholders.
Okay. Okay, but removal of information would mean loss of data, and patient data is extremely important to us. We already won't have a lot of patients with us, right? Very few people will actually sign up for the clinical trial. So, do you want to miss out on patient data?
It could depend on the number of missing values. Like if there
Yeah.
is a large number of missing values,
I'm
then we
saying
can.
30%. What do you think in 30%? Deleting the missing values, mode, taking related records, input with similar value KNN. Great. What else? What else comes in your mind?
We can look for the similar kind of a patients so that we can able to accumulate the age factor. Almost like we can just input with the other data around the person. Same
Okay.
kind of questions in the closed conditions.
Something like clusters, whatever with closed conditions, whatever we can impute with, right? We can use mode. Yeah. So to answer the question, first thing, deletion is generally not advisable here because already we'll be having less information. We don't want to miss out on more data, right? So deletion is something that we really don't want to go ahead with. Clusters can be one of them, wherein we see that patients with similar conditions, what is their high BP level, or is it 0 or 1, and we impute with the help of that. Or mode is the easiest method to do so. And why we cannot use, can anyone tell me why we cannot use a mean or a median over here?
Yeah, now I get it, because some ages may be different. So after adding of all the values, we may get the some different value. So some may be of high ages, some may be of low ages. By adding, we can get the average value, which will not suit the particular condition. So we cannot use the mean. So
Okay, so that's like for the that's for age. Okay. Okay, let me write it this way. Let's say age is 35, 45, 66, 35, 34, 33, 46, 47, right? But your high BP column looks something like 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0. So why do you think in high BP we can use mode, but in age we can either use a mean or a median? That's what my question is. Himanshu is
For the qualitative data, yeah, for the categorical we go for the mode, and for the quantitative data we go for the median.
Exactly.
Or mode, yes.
Exactly, yes. So high BP is basically your categorical data, right? Because you have 0 and 1 response, binary response, right? And you cannot impute it with mean or median. In age, you can impute it with mean or median because it's a numerical data, continuous data, right? That's why I said that's why I asked two type of question. What will you do with age and what will you do with high BP? So is everyone clear with how we can process missing information in our case?
yeah, here, okay, final conclusion. So we can also use it for missing a 30% of age values. We can also use mean.
Yeah, we can also use mean or median in terms of age. Now, median we will be using when there is outliers in the data. So for that, we have to check the data distribution, right? And mean we will be using if there is near to, like, let's say negligible outliers. In that case, we'll be using mean.
Yeah, okay. Outliers means like so one age is like 35 and one age is like 70. So this is called, we can treat as like outliers only.
Let's say we have a value in the age column which is 117. So do you think a person can have, is it normal to have an age of 117?
No, nothing.
Yeah. So that's like an outlier. Yeah. We'll be talking more about how you identify outliers, but yes.
So
Yeah, I
Meghna,
meant
one
numerical.
question here. So
Yeah.
I know about the missing value treatments, but the reason I asked to reach out to data team, how does it work in the real time basically? I mean, is it a norm to do the missing value treatment or reach out to the data team?
See, that this data is already collected and it's something that you have already with you. As a data science team, you are going to think of solving the problem, and for that you are going to use missing value trim, because your treatment process is going to give you near to exact value, which I mean, let's say you are trying your best to give the near to approx value that it should have been, right? That's why missing value treatment is done rather than going back to the data team, because highly likely you won't get a accurate value back, or they will be saying that in the source data itself it is missing. So how do we get you back with that data? In most cases, in the source data itself maybe it is missing, so they won't be able to get back to you with a correct imputation, right? So how do you tackle such problems in real life scenarios? This is very common.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
for
in that case, we'll go with the 3%. That's why my question also in real time, is this the first choice that we do the
Yeah.
missing? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So for the age, you say you use a mean.
Yeah, for age, no, like I said, first we'll be checking the data distribution and see that whether mean or median, which will be the best case scenario in our case.
So you're taking the mean or median of all the values or the age.
Yeah. For age, we'll be either going for mean or median since it's a numerical value. There's a response that age is also a categorical variable. Here is not a categorical variable, right? We have discrete values over here, so it's not a categorical variable.
Wouldn't taking mean and median and having 30% of null values create a bias?
Not exactly, but let's say out of 100 data points, 30 are missing. So we are left with what, 70? Let's say out of 70, 40 data points are within the range of 35 to 37. So imputing your missing data with a range between 35 to 37 makes more sense, because you are adhering to the data distribution. Think of it statistically, right? Most of your data is inclining towards a range between 35 to 37. So highly likely that your missing value will also be within the range of 35 to 37. So if you impute such data, your data distribution remains intact, right?
Okay, got it. So basically we're checking the distribution first and then check.
Yeah.
What if we have so many missing values?
Yeah, if we have like, let's say 80-90% of missing values, then there's no use of using that column itself. So in such cases, we don't use that column.
Meghna?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, like, do we use KNN imputation anywhere?
Yeah, we do use KNN. There are a lot of imputation methods. I was just giving a simpler example of how you can use simple mean, median, or mode. Clear? Age is age is discrete data. So are you guys clear? Is everyone clear till here? Cool. So just to brief about the process to everyone, once we are done with the data analysis, we identify, relevant features, we identify this data distributions, we see what kind of pre-processing needs to be done to the data. We'll go on to our process of model development, and we'll be looking for, correct approach to building the model. So what do you think can be a better modeling approach over here? Should we go with a regression problem statement, or regression kind of solving, or classification, or clustering, or segmentation? What do you think suits best over here in our use case? Classification. What about others? So a lot of you go ahead with classification, right? Yeah, it is classification. I mean, to make the problem more easier, it is classification, because I can just have a target variable whether that person, right now the data that we have, we are going to build a model on that, right? So assuming that we already have a target variable which gives that, these patients have, in the past clinical trial, let's say we have a data of the clinical trial in the past, right? These patients have type 1 diabetes or not. In such cases, yes, we can do with a classification because we have a target variable, and we can just build a model on that, so that the model can be used to predict on the new patients and see that whether those patients will be getting type 1 diabetes or not. But in cases where we don't have a past data, where we just have the current set of patients with us, in such cases, we have to go with something like clustering, because there we don't know. There's no label of yes or no in the type 1 diabetes, right? So when we see the data, that's when we'll be more clear on the path that we are taking, right?
So here the target variable will be the past data only, right?
Yeah. Here we are trying to make the model learn on the past data, so that on the current clinical trial that we are testing on, it gets to predict on the patients that are right now being enrolled with us, and predicts on them whether they will be able to, they will be generating type 1 diabetes or not.
So means here we are doing the trial on like that. Okay, based on that age, what are the problems here are facing? So we are checking with the same age whether these people are also facing the same problem or not, right?
Just to make it more simple, let's say we have n number of patient data, right? Now, for this particular clinical trial, 100 patients have showed interest, and we'll have to see their inclusion and exclusion criteria and see that out of 100 patients, how many are probable to get this type 1 diabetes, right? But to have that particular model ready, who can say that out of these 100 patients who are probable, my model needs to be learned and trained first, right? So for training that model, I will be using a huge set of data set, not a huge, but let's say X number of whatever is the record. We're not going into that, but we'll be using some kind of patient data to understand that, to help the model understand that under what conditions can the patient develop type 1 diabetes and not. Let's say we have EHRs, we have a lot of patient data, and my model has been trained on X number of data points, and it correctly knows to predict whether a person can have type 1 diabetes or not. So I have an automated model, I have a system ready with us. Whichever new clinical trial comes with me, I can just use my pre-made model to test it on this new patient data and see that how many of them are highly likely to generate type 1 diabetes, and just exclude them from the process. So that's the whole idea. Clear? Is everyone clear with the idea of modeling that we are going ahead with?
Yeah, but how it links with the age? Like actually, like age is a missing factor, right?
Actually, here how it is going to be compared with the previous health record, actually, or predictive or actual.
Okay.
That I did not understand. Connection of with previous data with the present new data.
Okay, let me try to explain you better. Okay, firstly, the age thing. The age question that I had was a very separate question. A patient's age can be related to his diabetes, right? So age is like one of the patient data that gets noted. So when you receive the data, you might have patient's age, patient's lifestyle, patient's region from where he is, blood sugar level, physical condition, allergies, etc., etc. So age is just one of the parameters, or one of the features to the data. And that's why I asked that if there is a missing condition on age, how will you treat that data? That was a separate question. Right now, on the modeling approach, what we are trying to do, let me annotate and show you. Okay. Let's say this is the new group of patients. I'm just labeling it as new. This is the new group of patients who have shown interest for this particular clinical trial. But herein we have ample amount of data in our EHRs, which has a lot of patient data. And this is EHR data, right? This is EHR data. Wherein this is the data that I'm going to use to train my model on. This is the data from where my model will learn to predict that who has the highest probability of getting type 1 diabetes, right? This is the data that it will be getting trained on. Once it's trained, tested, and now we know that this is a robust model that we have built, we will be using it to predict it on the new set of data where it's completely unseen to the model. It's a new set of data that we will be predicting on and saying that out of these new patients, how many of you are actually highly probable to get type 1 diabetes. That's the idea.
Okay, from EHRs, we will train the data model. Okay, on basis of the new patients list, we will test the new patients list, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, we'll train from EHR and we will test the new patient data.
Yes.
Now I understood.
Yeah.
So what if these patients from the EHR are from a different region? Their lifestyle is different, their health, everything. How can you use the same model to test new set of people that are from a different region? And
generally, EHRs are an exclusive and very extensive, exhaustive set of data. So it includes a variety of lifestyle, and we are going ahead with this assumption and consideration that it has a collection of X number of patients, which has a lot of lifestyles included, which has a lot of medical conditions included, because it's a EHR, right? You imagine patient data is being collected around the world. So much amount of data is being stored. So that's the best place where we can help the model learn from. And that is why we are getting it trained on that, right? Yeah, there can be one or two extreme conditions which you can never predict in terms of machine learning, right? There can be outliers. There can be one patient in the new set who is extremely different from every set of patients that we have trained our model on. In such cases, we really can't help it, because you cannot predict such scenarios in real time. So that is okay, but majority of them will have some kind of inclusion. I mean, this set of people will have some kind of behavioral traits which align with people over in the bigger set of data that we have, right? So it makes sense to train our data on this set and test it out on the new set. Clear?
Meghna?
Yeah.
So once this is done, then later are we going to do A/B testing to check whether the whole agenda is like to check whether the medication is, the clinical trial is effective or not, right?
Yeah.
So are we going to do that one also?
But we are just solving a project in real time, right? We can't go and test the drug on the patient. So we are just going to solve this part of the problem, where we give the patients to the company, to our stakeholder, who's the manager of the R&D team, that see, out of the patients that you gave me, these are the patients who are likely probable to develop type 1 diabetes. Now the rest of the part is yours. So we are just going to solve that part of the problem right now.
Okay, just we are just going to predict whether they are going to get the disease. Okay, yeah, fine.
So how many of you got what I said? How many of you are clear on the approach that we are taking? Can I get a yes if you are clear with the approach? What is inclusion and exclusion criteria? The same thing, whether a patient will be included in the trial or not. That's the criteria.
Data distribution means different columns. Yeah, we'll arrange the data. We'll call it like data distribution only, right?
Yeah, data distribution basically is like, what's the distribution? What's the range of your data? How does your data lie or look like?
Yeah. One query regarding this EHR. When we fetch the EHR data, we are getting the similar kind of data what we have have the clinical trial members, right?
So you're saying that basically you're trying to ask that this new set, will their behavioral or medical conditions align with the EHR ones?
Yes.
That's what. Yeah, that's what I said, that this is an exhaustive set. So majority of the conditions will obviously overlap with the newer set, right? Because imagine this is the data being collected from around the world. So much of data we'll be having over here to train the model on. Clear?
Yeah.
Great.
We will not test the newly patients list data, right? We will only train the new patient list only, right?
Yeah, we'll be only training on, because for training, my model needs to understand, right? If the patient's age is 35, if the patient has high BP, if the patient's insulin level is high, and we see that in the past data, that in the EHR data, that person has type 1 diabetics. So it learns a pattern from that data. It learns that, okay, in such conditions, the person is probable to develop type 1 diabetes. So it is learning pattern from the data, relationship between different variables.
So yeah, so can I conclude like this? Okay, for exams we will prepare all questions. For writing exam only 4 to 5 questions like that. Can I?
Yeah. You learn from so much. You learn so much about the subject during an exam. But do you get the same?
Yeah,
same
no, we get only
result?
2 or 5 questions. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So is everyone clear with whatever we discussed?
Yeah, very clear.
Great, great. So we conclude the class for today. And I hope the class was interesting and understanding. So did you guys get to learn new things? Did you guys enjoy the class? Did you guys understand the class? Can I get some response?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have understood and we have known very new things which we are not familiar of. Yeah, it's a great session.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great, 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 great. Loved hearing your response. Cool. So I think we will conclude the session for today. We'll be looking for we'll be connecting over the next session. But till then, I just want you guys to research more on healthcare, research more on how the data is getting collected, how do, clinical trials usually happen, all of that. I hope you guys do some kind of background research. It will help you understanding the problem even better, right? So cool. Thank you so much for attending the session. And I hope you guys had a great time because I had. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next session.